we're really the last number on the 7th chapter. Bali tshuva darkod lios shvelim vanovim bioser. The persona of Bali tshuva are to be shvelim vanovim bioser, low spirited and very humble. The Omru Lohen. And if somebody should say to them, Emesh hayiso haks Omru Lohen in Chorfu Osen haksilim b'masein harishonim. If the fools would go disgrace them due to their original behavior, their original act, Omru Lohen, Emesh hayiso osakach v'kach. Just as recent as yesterday, this is what you did. Emesh hayiso osakach v'kach. So what is that? You think you're so holy? Don't you remember last night we used to eat hamburgers and cheeseburgers, and we painted the town red, whatever it is, and the person doesn't want to hear about it. Person's embarrassed. So why is the person saying it? Because they're a bunch of fools. Therefore, they're called ksilim. Ayagishu lahen. They should not be touched by it. They remain silent, they listen, and they rejoice because they know this is merit. That they yesterday behaved a certain way and they abandoned that manner of behavior, that itself is their ultimate merit. Whenever they're embarrassed because their original behavior, actions, and they feel ashamed because of it, their merit is great, and the distinction increases in value. You know what he's saying? Being about tshuva is one thing. I have remorse. I regret what I originally do. I have pain because of what I originally did. Why did I misbehave? When people remind you, and due to that, you feel more ashamed, that you feel shame is a merit. What is a person ashamed of? Something which he doesn't want to be associated with. Because of where you are today, and you have that level of recognition of what's correct and what's not correct, that's the basis for your shame. Therefore, that increases the person's merit. It's like I always say, certain people, they're insensitive to other people. And they'll make a comment which actually can insult another person. And they don't even pick up on it because that's the way they speak. Although what the person says is a put down and is an insult, they don't even sense that they insulted the person. So you say to that person, do you realize what you just said? He says, what did I say? I said, what you just said, you embarrassed him. You insulted him. He says, I didn't realize it. People are so into expressing themselves in certain ways, they don't even realize the ramifications of what they say, how it hurts people. So the person says, oh, I'm sorry I said it. Do you feel bad? I won't do it again. But if I hurt another person, you should feel bad. If you feel bad, that means you are relating to the reason, to the misbehavior, how bad it is. But if you're not, I won't do it again. I made a mistake. Now, God forbid a person runs somebody over and causes them to become a paraplegic because he looked away from the windshield for 5 minutes while he was driving. Well, I won't look away again. But the man is a paraplegic. The man has to live a life of pain and suffering and deprivation. Do you feel pain to your core that you wish you would have never gotten into the car or looked away? So how a person responds to certain things, that speaks volumes of the capacity of the person, how we process whatever that may be. V'chet gomu loma lebal tshuva zchor masechu rishonim. O laskira lefonov k'dei sheyas yivaishu. It's considered an absolute sin to remind, to tell about tshuva. Remember the way you used to behave, or to mention anything to them so they should become embarrassed. It's bad enough the person is ashamed. It's like putting salt on the wounds. What are you doing? The man wants to forget about it. The man wants to disassociate himself with that, with his past, and you're not letting him to forget. Even though you don't mention that, you'll discuss other subject matters, other people, which you know will touch him in a way which will be painful for him. This is considered grieving a person, to say words that are hurtful, even in an illusionary manner. But factually, if you hurt that person's feelings, you cause embarrassment to him, you held culpable. You're not permitted to grieve your fellow, to say words which are what? Which are hurtful. Hurt a person's feelings, Torah violation. So by reminding him of his past, so he said, but it's true. I'll give you an example. Person went to prison for white collar crime. And he comes to shul, and you give him a big shalom aleichem, welcome to the shul, and said, well, where was he? Well, he just left Otisville. He was there for 6 years. Otisville, is that a place? Is that in the in the Bahamas somewhere? No, it's upstate New York. Well, what are you doing? By making it obvious that he's just arrived and he's been let out from somewhere. Yeah, but I'm happy. Yeah, your happiness causes shame and embarrassment to the other person. But people, they hide under the guise of what? I'm happy for you. I'm happy for you, but simultaneously I step on you and I soil you and I crush you. That's called being two-faced. You say one thing, but you mean something else. Not supposed to share information which is pejorative, negative, unless it has constructive value. So at one time, if a person became a Baal Tshuva, repentant, and you would say, "Better to see him. He's a Baal Tshuva." That was something which was very personal, very private. You have no right to divulge it, because now he's to be looked upon in a lesser level because he was out of the fold. He's back in the fold now. He's on track now. But today, when you refer to a person as a Baal Tshuva, to a degree, it's a badge of honor. I pride myself. We're not talking about, do you remember you used to eat crab and chop suey? We're not talking about that. You gotta remind, but say, this man, he's a Baal Tshuva, great person. He gave it all up to come back. So you're priding him. But at one time, saying that in a certain type of community, the person says, I prefer it. No, you don't share it, because I'm embarrassed when I come among these people. Because the way their minds and their emotions are trained, they see it as a negative, not as a positive. But in secular society, or more modern society, he's Baal Tshuva. So, he really checks his suits for sharpness. He's a Baal Tshuva, right? To make sure there's no linen wool. So the ones that you share with us, we don't even know what sharpness is. And they're so-called, they're observant Jews. You got it? You go to a Kiddush, the laws, it's ruled based on the Gemara and Shulchan Aruch. You're not supposed to have fish and meat together, chicken and meat and fish together. Why? Because there's a certain fish that has a certain enzyme, and when it mixes with meat, it creates a toxin. And that toxin could compromise your health. Therefore, we don't have meat and fish on the same plate. That's what we drink between the two. We have a meat fork, we have a fish fork. You don't use the same fork for both. Okay? You ever go to a smorgasbord sometime? And you look at people's plates, they have fish and have meat on the same plate, touching one another. Halachically speaking, you're not permitted to eat it. Because the Moshe says, Chamir Sakant to be suro. Something which is life-threatening has greater stringency than something which is halachically not permitted. Because it creates this toxin which could compromise your life. What if a person's a convert? And you share with somebody's a convert. In terms of the convert himself, if he doesn't want it to be known, you have no right to share it, regardless of what your intent is. It's like something which is given to you on within the context of confidentiality. You're not permitted to break that confidentiality. You have no right to share it. Well, I want it because I think he'll feel good about it. It's irrelevant what you think, but if he doesn't want it to be known, you have no right to share it. I remember when I was a little boy, must have been 5, 6. There were times that I was wild, 4 or 5, wild. Well, I mean wild, not compared to what wild is today. You know? So I was already 12, 13 years old, and I met these 2 ladies. They were married already. And they say in my presence, before other people, says, remember him? He was a cute kid, but was he wild? When I was 12, 13 years old, I was pretty mature. I had the maturity of a 16-year-old. And they're saying when I'm 12, 13, that I was a wild kid. I was embarrassed. I felt embarrassed. They meant it, to be cute, but factually, I was embarrassed. What do you expect from a 4 or 5-year-old kid? So you don't say when he's 12, 13 that, he was a wild kid when he was a little boy. That's something positive. It reflects something maybe negative. I wasn't happy about it. They're a violation of losona isha samiso. That's called aggrieving a person. Well, we didn't mean it that way. It's around what you mean. It's what it is. And if you hurt a person's feelings by sharing certain information, it's Torah violation. Eighth chapter, Hatovat Tzvun Letzadikim. The goodness that's hidden away for the righteous. Hi Chayot Lo Mabor. That life in the eternal location, the world to come. The Achayim Shein Movis Imoyim. That's life which has no relevance to death. Vatov Sheini Muro. And it's a goodness which has no aspect of negative, of evil. It's absolute goodness. Unrelated to death. It's very interesting. Let's say a person lives healthy, he lives many years, but he knows he's going to die. So even when you're living the life, it can't be lived to its fullest because you're going to die. But there's nothing, but the way you're living your life, it's perfect. There's nothing missing. But knowing I'm going to die, that is a compromise. That's an infringement on the way I'm able to experience life. What about if you have life which is unassociated with death? That means you're living the ultimate life. I don't have to worry that it's ever going to come to an end. So that automatically makes your experience another level of experience. I'll give you an example. Person wins $100 million lottery. And the person says, I figure if I spend $10 million a year to live a comfortable life in 10 years, by the 11th year, I'm going to be left with nothing. I'm already thinking what's going to happen in the 11th year. You say, something, spend $1 million a year, it'll last you 100 years. The money will outlive you. But this man says, no, I like to live high in the hog. But if I live on 10 million a year, I'll be bereft in the 11th year. Understand? So even when he can benefit or enjoy the ultimate, he can't because he says it's going to come to an end. Yeah, we experienced this. I'm not sure the last time Larry was in a hotel. We were in a hotel for 2 weeks. He used to go to Canyon Ranch. Yeah, they gave him a piece of pasture land. It was about 100 yards by 100 yards. Said you could have all these 2 weeks, just keep munching away. It's okay. Okay. But if you're in a hotel, they say every day you're there. The day before the last day, they slip something under your door to tell you checkout is tomorrow at 11 o'clock. They're already telling you the last day, tomorrow's checkout. And if you want, you can have late checkout, but you may have to pay for it. You know something? They already put a damper on the last day of your vacation. You don't want to think about when the vacation ends, but they don't let you forget it. You see that piece of paper come under your door, tell you 11 o'clock's checkout, because they have to make up the room for the next. And then, even if you want to extend your vacation, sorry, the room's already booked. It's not even available. You got to go to Motel 6 down the road. And they leave the light on for you over there. You got it? So even when you're enjoying, you can't enjoy. The world to come is absolute good. It doesn't come to an end. It's unassociated with death. Automatically, you could live the life on the ultimate level because it's not coming to an end. David Melch lived only 70 years. King David. King David was one of a kind of person in the spiritual sense. He had an appreciation for spirituality. Very few people in the history of this existence had that level. And he says, it's a verse in Mishlei. I rejoice over your words as I've come upon great spoils. So he says the expression sus, which means I rejoice, it's tinged with some pain. He says, how could it be tinged with pain? So he says a king wants to reward the subject, and he says to him, you could go into my treasure room because I want to reward you, but you can stay only for 5 minutes. And anything you can take within 5 minutes, it's yours. It's yours for keeps. And you're going to see things that no commoner has ever seen. But he says, I want to give you advice. Don't get enthralled with what you see, because you'd be wasting your time, because at that moment, you could have been taking. And anything you take is yours. He goes in immediately. He's literally, he has never seen things like this. But the words of the king ring it in his ear, and he starts taking as quickly as he can. And then the buzzer goes off. When the buzzer goes off, he's pained. But you accumulated a fortune. But you realize there was so much more you could have taken. So you're rejoicing because of what you've taken, but you're pained because you could have taken more. So the Vilna Gaon says, David HaMelech, he understands Torah is unlimited, Torah knowledge. But he only has 70 years that he's able to really to harvest it and to cultivate it and to accumulate it. But he understands it's endless times more than that. But he only has 70 years. When the buzzer goes off, it's over. So as much as he was joyful and ecstatic because what God gave him, but simultaneously he's pained because he appreciates what he has and there's so much more he could have. So the joy is coupled with pain that he's not able to engage to a greater degree. That's the Vilna Gaon.